When it comes to classic retro crafts, the sock monkey has a long tradition, but it might not be the tradition that you're thinking of, nor quite as long. Welcome crafters, monkey lovers, and nostalgia junkies. I'm Lindsay Crane, and these are my retro craft dreams. March 7th is National Sock Monkey Day, and I've got a friend who loves monkeys, and I don't think he's got a sock monkey in his collection yet. So today I wanted to learn how to make a sock monkey and find out where they came from, which is easier said than done, because it turns out the origins of this kitschy bit of American folk art are not what they seem. While we often presume this classic upcycle project came out of the Great Depression and a period of scarcity, no available evidence exists to indicate those origins, and it is unclear when the first one was actually made. And in fact, all of the websites I found discussing the topic are just regurgitating the same information, copy-paste, very often without any primary sources, and that part bothered me. So really, I was just looking for some primary sources to back up what these people were saying. So I'm going to get started making this monkey and show you how a single pair of socks can break down into the parts of a monkey, and while I put it together, I will tell you all about what I found regarding its origins. All of my sources can be found in the description box below. This is PJ Sock Monkey. This is a modern sock monkey kit by Leisure Arts from 1999. They do appear to have made a whole line of sock monkey kits with different accessories, probably all in the same year. The reason I call it modern, even though it's 25 years old, is because the manufacture of the socks was changed in 1992. I have an affinity for craft kits, and so I looked for this and bought this deliberately. However, if I had known then what I know now, I would have sought out a pre-1992 pair of socks, and I now understand why I could not find any other kits besides this line from Leisure Arts, but we'll get to all of that in a few moments. Adoption decree. Beloved monkey, devoted guardian, kindly maker, date of adoption. So there's a spot for me to put my name on there. I'm the kindly maker. We're not going to worry about those things right now. This is my first time making this, so this is not going to be a tutorial. I will, however, try and make the instructions clear as I follow along so that you can do so as well. 2 socks that are as big as my table. Turn 1 sock inside out. Start 3 inches from white heel and sew 2 seams 3/8 of an inch apart in the center of the sock, curving at the ends as shown. So we're going to start here and sew like that. Cut sock between seams to within 1.5 inches of white heel. And then we stuff it already. Whip stitch the opening closed. Okay, so step 1, finish the whole body. We're skipping the first sock for now, because I have to get to my sewing machine. For the second sock, we are going to cut the tail right along here, all the way to like there. And then we are going to cut that, and that's going to be cut, I think down here. It doesn't really say, yes, it does say cut along fold. Those will be the arms. And then we cut out the heel for the muzzle, and then we get some ears from that. So let's go ahead and cut this up, and then we can start sewing. Let's just cut. And now, the tale of the sock monkey. First, a disclaimer. I conducted all of my research online. There are probably many sources that I did not find or could not gain access to. Alas, I cannot scroll through the microfiche. And Google newspapers can only do so much, and even the best book source I found, I only had access to the Google preview. I think I saw enough of the information, but I couldn't look at her bibliography. So it won't take much to prove any of my theories wrong. Still, what I found does paint a certain picture. But we'll begin where the well-told story begins, with the raw material. There does seem to be a bit of conflation in the timeline of the sock monkey here, because they all start not with the origin of the monkey, but rather by telling the tale of the Nelson Knitting Company and the improvements John Nelson made to the sock knitting machine in the late 1800s. While this may be of intense interest to some of you, I didn't find it very enlightening in regard to the sock monkey, other than now it can exist, I guess. So I won't go into that. All of that information is in my sources if you would like to read up on it further. The next pin in the timeline is the subsequent trademark of the red heel sock by Nelson in 1932, as suggested by ad exec Howard Monk in order to distinguish its socks from its many copycats and competitors. They called this the DTEC tip for reasons I cannot decipher. I didn't find documentation of that trademark, but I think I found a later one, and that one did not use this term. The next thing we know for sure came from a patent. Helen G. Cook of Aurora, Colorado filed design patent 170008 in 1952. It was approved in the following year. Classic red-lipped sock monkey. Cook then sued a man named Stanley Levy for patent infringement. Can't really find anything on him or documentation on this lawsuit, but at least it does come from a more credible source. It seems he had a shop and was selling sock monkeys made by a woman local to his area. He had the thought to reach out to Nelson Knitting. Surely they knew that using their socks for sock monkeys was not a unique idea, and they would want to help prove Cook's patent invalid. Well, they took him up on that. And so they searched for monkeys that predated Helen Cook's patent. A search which was successful. Tail, arm, muzzle, ear. They put up as evidence a monkey made by Grace Wingate for her grandson in 1951. She signed a sworn statement regarding the date of its origin and gave the monkey to Nelson Knitting. Both items, monkey and statement, now reside in the Midway Village and Museum Center in Rockford, Illinois. Helen Cook acquiesced, settled her lawsuit with Levy, and sold her patent to Nelson Knitting Company for $750 in 1955. We are also told that Nelson secured rights from other women and that there was a woman in Tennessee who was paid $1,000, but we're given no information on them or their monkeys. And why was some unnamed woman paid more than the one who held the actual patent? Cannot say. But even this leads to so many questions. Could they really not find a red heel sock monkey earlier than 1951? Did they scour the nation? Or, as Grace Wingate was a Rockford, Illinois resident, did they find this example close to home and just call it a day? This is actually a key question because hers is all we actually have to go on in dating the monkey's design. I have to get coffee. Oh, that's better. I also think it's worth the thought experiment that if these monkeys had been around since the creation of the red heel sock in the 30s, surely some of these adults involved would have been children at that time and would have memory of them. It's circumstantial, but I do feel like this apparent lack of knowledge is an indicator that red heel monkeys probably didn't exist in the 30s. Regardless, once united, Nelson Knitting Company ran with the novelty and included the instructions on packaging of the socks pretty much ever since, and they embraced the monkey as an integral part of their legacy, as has the town of Rockford, Illinois, where Nelson Knitting was born, as well as Fox River Mills, who purchased Nelson Knitting in 1992 and who continue to manufacture red heel socks for monkey making purposes. If you would like to make your own, I do have a link in the description box below. There's some interesting tidbits in this story, but the gaps in the timeline leave out the actual origin of the monkey. And while it may not be something we can ever provably know, I do feel like there is evidential room to speculate on what its family tree looked like. Some sources do make note of the development of the stuffed animal during the latter half of the 19th century, and some credit authors such as Rudyard Kipling for the attraction to more exotic animals such as the monkey. And browsing through US toy patents of the late 1800s, one does get an impression that monkeys were indeed a popular item. I found money boxes, climbing toys, pull toys, whatever this is, you know, for kids, and more. I love that joke. I'll never get over that joke. I also found patents for monkey dolls. These designs, filed in 1917, 1922, and 1923, are all for the ornamental design. They don't say how the monkey is made. They do appear to be made out of a smooth material, which could be knit stocking material, but there's nothing in these documents to indicate that. But I did want to contrast it with these patents from 1921 and 1938 that do appear to have fur. In fact, this is the only example that I found of a monkey doll from the Great Depression, and it's the most detailed and extravagant one. Although it should be noted that the patent database does not seem to have a way to search broadly by year, so I'm sure I missed plenty. So that's very likely the monkey side of the family tree. Monkeys were popular. But what about the sock side? Surely it was a thing during the Great Depression that people started making toys with whatever they had on hand because hard times? Actually, no, because we have no less than 5 patents for sock dolls ranging from 1917 to 1927, predating the Great Depression by many years. There is this one from 1915 that could be socks. It doesn't say. It looks like it could be, but yeah, you know what? It's creepy. Just get it off the screen. And it's worth noting that, if I'm reading these right, a couple of these designs do place the heel of the sock as the doll's face. So keep that in mind. So could these be the monkey's predecessors?
If you ever make your own sock monkey, I recommend stay stitching across these openings after you cut it, because I had to do some surgery.
While Midway Village and Museum Center exhibit curator Dan Bartlett does make mention of these sock doll patents in Bonnie Krause Connolly's book, Everything's Coming Up Sock Monkeys, it is only speculation that these two things are related. However, I'm more concerned with the fact that here is a piece of the puzzle that hasn't made the internet rounds. In fact, it's rather glossed over, and I think it's significant because when you put together the pre-existence of these sock dolls and an affinity for monkey toys, it's inevitable that at some point they're going to come together. And I do think this is further supported by the existence of other stalking animals, such as this mention of stalking cats from 1926 in the same article as other monkey dolls. Additionally, I believe it is this inevitability that makes the monkey's origins so hard to pin down, because we very likely have a case of simultaneous invention, in which multiple people decided to turn sock dolls into monkeys at more or less the same time. And as mentioned, with some of those designs having the heel as the doll's face, even the use of the red heel for the monkey's mouth can be understandably repeated. But how far back can we push the monkey? In my search through the Google Newspaper Archive, I found one confirmed sock monkey that predated Grace Wingett's. And that is an article in 1949 on Lavina Kessler, sewist and entrepreneur at large. And while she's only credited in the article by her husband's name as Mrs. Mac S. Kessler, the names of her sons given in the article were enough to confirm her identity through an ancestry website. Lavina Kessler, we see you. And while we have an entire article discussing her sock doll prowess and acknowledging that she made monkeys, the form and design of those monkeys is unclear. We are given this photo, and I believe these to be monkeys. And they are not red-lipped. And then I realized there were clues staring us in the face all along, because Helen Cook made references to 2 other things in her patent. So I looked a little closer. And the first one was one of those aforementioned monkey dolls, specifically the one filed in 1922 by Jane Grace Stokes. This monkey has a cap and vest and quite distinct thumbs. I'm not entirely sure what Helen Cook was referencing from this patent, unless maybe it was made from socks? Still, why is no one else pointing this out? The connection is definitive. It's right there in her patent. But then there's the second one that says, McCall's Printed Patterns, July 1950, page 813, item D. This threw me, because page 813? Is there some sort of book of McCall's patterns? I could not discover an answer to this. If you are a vintage pattern buff and familiar with Big Four and can clue me into what this means, please do chime in the comments below. My Googling yielded bupkis. All I can figure is that there must be some master pattern book cataloging all of their patterns for a given year, but I can't figure out how to find if that's true. Regardless, one day I was thinking about it and just forgot about the page 813 part and thought, oh, It's a McCall's printed pattern. So I went scrolling through the Vintage Patterns wiki looking at McCall's patterns for 1950, and I found this. Could this be what she was referencing? If viewed left, right, top to bottom as we read in English, the monkey would be item D, but I still don't see a connection between this design and Helen Cook's. So, not definitive. And then I opened up my search looking for any monkey pattern, and I found one. Another McCall's. McCall's 1443 is for a batch of stocking toys, including a sock monkey, which is item D. It is also a cap and vest design, very similar to the J.G. Stokes patent, and it is from 1948. The date on this versus the one mentioned in Helen Cook's patent means that I can't definitively say that this is what she's referencing. I think it comes down to that page 813 part. What is she looking at when making that reference? If there is a book compiled by McCall's with all of their patterns, how long was any delay in the production of that book? Could it be 2 years? So I can't ignore that this is very likely what she's referencing. And so we have a sock monkey pattern that she is then modifying to include the red heel for the mouth. And whether or not she was the first to that game, she thought she was. So I think there is a question of the distinction between the sock monkey in general and the red-lipped version we know today. One can be proven to 1951. The other can be traced to 1948. Now, I will make one more note in this. I did find a crochet pattern for a very similar style monkey from 1943. So still no sock monkeys during the Depression. And with that, we haven't even touched on who was making these monkeys. Were they made by moms and grandmothers who wanted to give their little ones something to cherish and love? No. While, of course, that happened, as evidenced by Grace Wingett, can we just pause to think of her poor little grandson who had his handmade gift taken back and given to a sock company? Did she make him a new one? It appears it actually became a staple in the maker community as just a go-to beginner-level project. The instructions, of course, readily available on every pair of Nelson's Rockford red heel socks from 1955 onward. Between 1956 and 1961, and a few times in the mid-1970s, I found references to women's clubs, church groups, children's groups, making them for the purposes of selling at bazaars, for fundraisers, and for general charity events. And they also were the subject of craft classes at local parks, and even as a sewing activity for hospital patients. So there is an equal chance that that vintage sock monkey in your collection was purchased for its original owner and not made by someone they knew. Unless they made it themselves in a class. But of course, while the sock monkey may not have been made by the people experiencing hard times, it may have been made in order to help those experiencing hard times. So why socks? Was it just about making do and repurposing worn out materials? Perhaps for some, and that is alluded to in this sock doll patent from 1917. But I think the larger element here is simply ease of construction that required no pattern and easy access to the raw material. A couple of the sock doll patents do make mention of minimizing the time and effort involved in making these dolls, and if you are making a stuffed item from a tube, it's certainly going to save you some steps. And it was likely much easier to find a pair of socks to use than to deal with purchasing yardage of new fabric. And I honestly liken it to the DIY of modern times, wherein we have people of all economic brackets who love to go down to the dollar store and see what they can find to turn into something new. The sock monkey may not have been with us since the 30s, but it does have its roots in dolls that go back even further than the Great Depression. Its popularity in American culture waxes and wanes, seemingly along the nostalgia cycle, every 20 years or so, as the children who loved them grow up and want to experience them again. They were popular in the 50s, and again in the 70s, during which the patent expired, and as evidenced by my 1999 kit, they popped up again in the 90s. So what's the takeaway here? Does it matter that the sock monkey didn't start when we thought it did? Well, no. Not unless someone's trying to sell you one. The sock monkey is beloved by its fans regardless of its origins. But if you are one like me, who likes to use crafting to connect to the past, this changes who you're connecting to. Now, when I'm making a sock monkey, I'm connecting to crafters who were like me. Women who wanted to use their crafting skills to benefit their community or to start a business, and occasionally to teach younger generations how to make fun things with their own two hands. I do hope you enjoyed this little stroll down Sock Monkey Lane, and now I have some shenanigans for you as I show you the Sock Monkey final result. Had a little fun. Had a little bit of fun there. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please do feel free to subscribe for more. It would really help me out. Give it a like, comment, let me know your thoughts on sock monkeys. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye. I'm sorry, monkey, but you're too big for that. Oh, monkey, what are you doing? Hey, monkey, you gonna help me make granny squares? What? No, then get out of there. What you looking for, monkey? Monkey, get out of the yarn. You gonna help me sew your hat, monkey? Aw, monkey, I don't think you're gonna be able to make it work that way. You can't even reach the pedal. Be patient, monkey. I'm almost done. Toby, did monkey take your tree? Monkey, you have to share. Monkey, be nice. I'm sorry, monkey. That radio doesn't work anymore. You can play music on here. What do you want to listen to? Wait right here. Don't touch it. Good grief, monkey. You're gonna break that. Okay, you know what, monkey? You need a nap. No. Monkeys. Monkey, no! No, I'm not overreacting. You're being naughty. Now let's go. Monkeys. No. Come on, monkey. Let go. Let go. No, I've had to go chasing you all over the place because you don't listen. Okay, let's try it again. Now sit here and let me finish sewing your little monkey. Monkey, get off of Toby. Alright, monkey, let's go to bed. Here's your monkey. You too. Good night, monkey. You'll go to your new home tomorrow.